He was the king's favorite, closer than any friend, richer than any noble, but his rise came at a cost. Jealous lords turned against him, and when the crown could no longer protect him, they took everything, including his life. This is the true story of Hugh Despenser, a man who rose too high and died by one of the most horrific executions in royal history. History remembers kings and queens, but often the most dangerous position in a royal court is the throne, it s standing beside it. In medieval England, to be the king's favorite meant privilege, riches, and influence, but it also meant enemies, and no one made more of them than Hugh Despenser, the notorious companion and counselor of King Edward II. Despenser was born in 1286 to a noble family, but his fortunes changed when he entered King Edward's inner circle. He wasn't just a courtier, he was a confidant, an advisor, and, according to many historians, possibly the king's lover. The two were inseparable. Edward II showered Hugh Despenser with land, titles, and power. Within a few years, Despenser controlled huge swaths of England, seized castles, and oversaw lucrative positions in government. To his enemies, he wasn't just powerful. He was corrupt, greedy, and dangerous. Nobles across the realm grew enraged. They accused Despenser of exploiting the king's trust, of blackmail, theft, and cruelty. His rise came at the expense of other powerful lords who had once been allies of the crown, but Despenser didn't stop. He tightened his grip, drove out rivals, and even confiscated land from the wives of his enemies. He made no effort to hide his dominance. Among those who hated him most was Queen Isabella, Edward's own wife. She despised Despenser's influence over her husband and his open mockery of her position. For years, she remained silent. Then she vanished, only to return in 1326, not as a queen, but as an invader. Isabella had allied with Roger Mortimer, a powerful English lord living in exile. Together, they raised an army in France and landed on English soil. The country turned against Edward. Nobles abandoned him. His army dissolved, and within weeks the once untouchable Despenser was captured while fleeing with the king. What came next was not a trial, it was revenge. On November 24, 1326, Hugh Despenser was sentenced to death in the most humiliating, painful, and public way possible. He was brought before a jeering crowd in Hereford, where nobles and commoners alike demanded a spectacle. They wanted not just justice, they wanted a warning burned into history. Despenser was stripped naked and paraded through the streets. At the gallows he was hanged by the neck, but deliberately cut down before dying. Then came the true horror. While still fully conscious, his genitals were cut off and burned before his eyes. His stomach was sliced open, and his intestines were pulled out and thrown into a fire beside him. Only after he had suffered beyond measure was he finally beheaded. But even in death, his body was not spared. He was quartered, cut into 4 pieces, and his remains were sent to the 4 corners of the kingdom. His head was mounted on London Bridge. His limbs were displayed in York, Bristol, Dover, and Winchester. It was a medieval warning sign: betray the nobility, and no amount of royal favor will save you. Why such brutality? Because Hugh Despenser was more than a man. He had become a symbol of everything the barons and the public hated: unchecked royal favoritism, corruption, and tyranny. His death was engineered to reverse the humiliation he had brought on his enemies. and to send a message that no one, not even the king's favorite, was above the law of the realm. But the destruction of Despenser didn't end the crisis. Edward II, now a prisoner, was forced to abdicate the throne in favor of his teenage son, Edward III. The deposed king was later murdered in captivity, in circumstances as disturbing as Despenser's execution. Some chroniclers claim he was killed with a red-hot poker, inserted in a manner intended to avoid leaving visible wounds, a brutal echo of the punishment given to his companion. And yet, in destroying Hugh Despenser, England also revealed something deeper, the dangerous nature of royal intimacy. In a world of political alliances, land disputes, and fragile monarchies, to be too close to power was often to invite ruin. Hugh Despenser's story is a cautionary tale. His rise was swift, built on charm and ruthless ambition. His fall was spectacular, engineered by those who waited for the perfect moment to strike. He was not the first royal favorite to be destroyed, nor would he be the last. History is filled with those who got too close to the throne and paid for it in blood. But Despenser's death stands out for its sheer savagery. It wasn't justice. It was a ritualized execution designed to erase him completely, body and legacy alike. But it failed, because today his story still haunts the pages of history. A reminder that favor is fleeting, enemies are patient, and power, when unchecked, always demands a price. This is Vaults of History. Subscribe for more hidden truths, brutal downfalls, and the forgotten darkness of the past. Because history isn't clean, it's raw, cruel, and unforgettable.